Hi guys, let's make this cute little Lowball tumbler with our airbrush machine. So I started out with a white sublimation whiskey bit from other Tumbler. I know I'm not sublimating this, but it was already coated white, so I figured let's just grab this one and make our lives a little easier. If you have a stainless steel one with no white coating, just go ahead and spray paint it white. I'm applying my glitter via the epoxy method because I already had some facet epoxy mixed up, so I figured let's not waste it and use that to adhere our glitter. So you need a very thin amount when using the epoxy method, just enough to cover your tumbler and make it sticky. I'm using Heart Happy from PDB Creative Studio. It's my favorite white glitter like in the whole world. It is so sparkly. It was curated by Miss Sweary Kim herself, and it's my go-to for white glitter. And I'm just covering the entire tumbler with this glitter, no ombres, just solid glitter cup. And then I'm going to let this dry for about 4 hours. Since it's facet epoxy, it should only need 4 hours or less to dry. And if you're using any other epoxy or adhesive, just let it dry per the instructions on your adhesive. I then put 2 coats of epoxy on this tumbler to make it smooth. And now we're ready for our airbrush. I am using an Iwata airbrush. I'm going to try my best with this tutorial. I've never filmed like an airbrush tutorial before, so bear with me. I'm mixing my own color. That's the beauty of airbrush. So I got this yellow and I added a little drop of orange just to try and match the decal to the best of my ability. I'm going to put that in my airbrush machine, and I am using a stencil that I got off Amazon, and I taped it on there so it would stay in place, and I'm just using that yellow paint and going right over the template in 2 coats. Now, the cup is obviously way wider than the template, so after this was dry, I lifted up the stencil and put it on the other side of the cup so that I had the same distressed look the whole way around. I believe I had to move it 3 times. This cup is 11 inches wide, and I believe the template was about 4 inches, so I did have to move it 3 separate times, but I really like the look. It almost gives the look of power wash with, the spray paint and the Dawn dish soap, so it turned out really cool. I think it really matched the aesthetic of the cup really well. I'm sorry my elbow's in the way. I promise I'll get better at filming me using my airbrush for you guys, but like I said, this is my first one, so bear with me here. At least you get a really good view of my elbow, Long pause. Okay. Now we're going to move it over one more time. You definitely want to tape these down. It'd be really hard to kind of hold the cup and hold the template down and airbrush it at the same time. So that's why I used that tape. So here is the last go around. I like to hold my airbrush further away so it has a nice wide spread coverage, and I don't soak it. I'm not spraying so much in one spot because then it's going to be really wet and it's going to dry a little weird. I will try and get a airbrush basics video up for you guys, but if you look up Airbrush Tumbler, there's a lot of creators on here that explain it really well. I'm using this white cast decal from Banff Custom Creations. I did not epoxy over this airbrush paint at all. I let it dry for about 20 minutes and I put the decal directly over it. It stuck really well. I love airbrush paint. It is sensitive though. I feel like any little scratch or dent can ruin it. So it's definitely not as strong as spray paint in my opinion, but I choose airbrush all the time. Okay, I decided this needed some black, so we're gonna get a little crazy here. First, I'm gonna take this painter's tape because painter's tape does not ruin the airbrush paint, and I'm gonna cover up about half of my tumbler. I wanna protect the decal, especially since I'm gonna be using black airbrush paint. I don't want that to get all over the decal and the rest of the cup. And then we're gonna use the outside part of that same stencil, and we're gonna use that to get like a distressed black edge look. It was super cool. So I'm going to tape that stencil down. You'll see exactly how I'm doing it here. And I also had to do this in 3 parts because it didn't wrap the whole way around the cup. So I'm taping it in place, and as you can see with the template, it's gonna have that really like burnt rough look, so it's gonna look pretty cool. So I'm gonna start with black airbrush paint. You don't need a lot when you're using black, like small little sprays will get the job done. I'm gonna move my elbow here in a second for you guys so you can see better. There you go. See, light sprays. Let that dry for maybe 5 or 10 minutes, and then I can pick the template up and move it to the other side of the cup. So it looked really, really cool. I then removed all of my tape after I did the whole bottom, and I decided I wanted to do this to the top of the cup too. So I probably could have saved myself some painter's tape and not removed it, but I just didn't think about it at the time. So I am doing the same thing to the top. I'm laying this paint down to protect my decal, and I'm going to airbrush the same look on the top as well. I think this was really easy. You could have done this with spray paint, I guess, but like the airbrush is just so easy, and I feel like I have more control with the airbrush, whereas, you know, with the spray paint, that's gonna spray everywhere and you don't have like as much control. But as you can see here, I'm just taping it to the top now, and I'm doing the same exact thing. I really think it looked super amazing in the end. I'm going to remove all that painter's tape now. Clean. If you have any overspray, you can just kind of clean it up with a Q-tip. Look how awesome that looks. I am now going to let my airbrush dry and put another coat of epoxy on it. Here I am using my Dremel to clean up the top rim, to smooth it out and let a little bit of stainless steel show. And then you're ready for your final layer of epoxy. It was overall a really fast process, and I think it looked really cool. And here again is the finished product outside in the sun. Let me know if you have any questions, guys.